Matt Bernier taking a look at the late pick four sequence Saturday afternoon at Laurel Park. Races 7 through 10. You've got 3 stakes races, 2 of them in the graded variety. You've got the General George as well as the Barbara Fritchie. I'm going to go through this. You can play this on DRF bets. I'd encourage you to use DRF Ticketmaker. Emphasize your opinions accordingly. As always with any of these kind of pick videos, I don't like to give out a ticket. I'd rather give you ideas. Some of them you'll agree with, some of them you'll disagree with. But at the end of the day, you're the one. You're the handicapper. You put that information in, interpret it however you'd like, make your opinions. Do what you need to do. DRF Ticketmaker, the beautiful thing there, once you go through, you click that Bet Now button, goes right through into DRF Bets. You are good to go. No individual tickets need punching. Kick things off with the 7th race. That is the first leg of the pick 4 sequence. 1.125 on the main track. It is the $100,000 John B. Campbell. Now, the number of horses I'm going to talk about in 3 of these legs, there's quite a few of them, but again, the beautiful thing about Ticketmaker, you can use A, B's, and C's, but mainly because in the Fritchie, I'm going to get really narrow. There are only 2 horses I'm really interested in there. So this race, there's about 6 horses that I would consider in here. The 2, the 3, the 6, the 9, the 10, and the 11. The 2, Johnny Jump Up, just simply based on the last out buyer and the last out raw time form rating. The buyer number, 93, very competitive in here. Highest last out raw time form U.S. rating in the field with a 117. I believe it's co-highest last out. And that was at 1.116. I understand this horse might have been getting a little bit short. Monongahela is the horse that was coming after, but at the same time, I'm going to use Monongahela in this spot as well. First time out for Jason Service. We'll talk about that horse in a bit. Johnny Jump Up might not be an A for me, but certainly a horse that I'd be using. The 3 horses, Unbridled Juan, tried the Fred Hooper down at Gulfstream most recently. That was a 1-turn mile. He really has an affinity for the Laurel main track. He's 2 for 2 over it. It's amazing to see how his career has changed over the last handful of years and months. But at the end of the day, I think he's a decent enough horse. The concern I have with the Hooper overall is just the quality of it. Now, getting in here against lesser and sort of weaker company, perhaps it's enough to get Unbridled Juan back to the winner's circle. He's another one. I don't know that I'd be using him as an A, but maybe I would certainly be using him as a B. I don't know that he would go all the way down to C territory, but really the question would be A or B for him, the number 3, Unbridled Juan. Move on to the number 6, Discreet Lover. Now, look, he's one of my favorites all time. Never in a million years would have thought that he'd be a Grade 1 winner, winning the Jockey Club Gold Cup last fall. On his best day, he's just probably better than a lot of these horses. But there are some things you need to consider. He's a horse that it seems like as more time has gone on, he is much more of a confirmed one-run closer, so he's going to need some pace, and perhaps off of a long layoff. He hasn't started since the Breeders' Cup Classic. Maybe he's going to need one. Maybe there's going to be a little bit of rust before we see his best foot forward, and maybe this is a means to an end to get ready for something bigger and better as they go forward. You have to use him as an A, I think, simply because he probably is the best horse in the race, but at the same time, wouldn't stun me if he got beat here in his seasonal debut. Move on to the number 9 horse, Monongahela. This is one I think you absolutely need to use. A horse that has always been in good form. Kelly Rubley had this horse basically for the entire career. Now all of a sudden Jason Service has this one. Beaten a half length by Name Changer most recently in the Queens County at Aqueduct. That was back in late December. Highest last out buyer in the field with a 98. The time form ratings are solid. Admittedly, Monongahela is a horse that's been a little bit of a nibbler throughout his career. 11 times second or third from 20 lifetime starts, 5 victories. But at the same time, boy, that move to the Service barn, he's got those numbers that are competitive. He has won at Laurel in the past. This distance, I don't think it's a problem for him. He came from way out of it in that run in the Queens County, and he just couldn't quite get there in time. I know there's a big pace that day. I think there's a real scenario where Monongahela is in here and a major player, 4-1 on the morning line. I think this one, for me, is an absolute A. Drawn just to the outside, the number 10. Bonus points for Pletcher. Fergal Lynch has the mount. He has certainly lost a little bit on the fastball. He's won at 10-1. I wouldn't be using him as an A or a B, but he would be a backup as a C because on his best day, if he's feeling good, he can get there. And the number 11 horse, General Downs. This one, to me, goes out for Kelly Rubley. I'm probably most intrigued with this one as a sort of upset candidate in here, and I would probably use this one as an A simply because there's going to be value, I believe. 8-1 on the morning line. Won the Native Dancer at 1.16 most recently. I think Rich Daddy, the horse that was coming after him, is a pretty solid one. If he were in this race, he would make plenty of sense. To me, this is a situation where perhaps the distance isn't ideal, but has won at it in the past, and I do think there's a real chance that this horse kind of slips through the cracks at a very, very square price. I'd be using General Downs as an A in here. So there are some horses for you to consider for the opening leg of this late pick 4 sequence, race number 7. Move on to race number 8. It's the General George. I said it when we spoke about it and out of the gate. I think this race is an absolute war. I think you can go 15 different ways in a 14-horse field. I'm going to look at 5 horses in particular, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 13, and the 14. The 2 home run maker, it feels like he finally, Mike Beard put it best, I think. He finally got a fig in that last race. He's been in great form. He's been rock solid over his past 4 starts, 3 of those victories. The margins of victory are only like this, but he finally earned that big speed figure, both on Beyer and time form. He's 8-1 on the line for Jeremiah Engelhardt. He's one I think you absolutely have to use. I'd probably be using him as an A in here. The 3 uncontested goes out for Jennifer Patterson. First time here. I think this is a situation where, based on the last out Beyer, makes plenty of sense. Probably a hair light from a time form standpoint, but there's no reason to believe that this one can't take a big step forward. Keep in mind, this horse has started once since March of 2018. If you believe you're going to get that 100 Beyer or somewhere close to it, this one makes plenty of sense at odds of 6-1. Another one I'd probably be using as an A. The 4 Colonel Sharp to me is interesting because most recently ran in the toboggan up at Aqueduct, forwardly placed, a hot pace that day, paid the price, faded down the lane. I don't think the distance is really an issue. He's 2 for 5 at it lifetime. He has an affinity for Laurel Park here. And he has figs that are competitive. Now, he may not be the most likely winner in here, but I think he could work out a decent enough trip in here. To me, he's a B in a spot like this. And then you go to the outside horses. The 13 Something Awesome. I actually picked him in the Pegasus World Cup. For a minute there, and I said, look, I don't think he's the most likely winner, but I think he's got a big chance to hit the board. Turn him for home, I thought he was going to run 3rd. And all of a sudden, he just dropped anchor. Now, was it the distance? Was it the class? Was it the company? Was it a number of things? Who knows? Maybe he's not what he once was at one point. But to be fair, I think there's a chance that on this turn back, he's 5-1. He won this race last year. If the pace heats up in front, I think he's going to come with his run from the back of the pack. Edgar Prado retains the mount. I just think there's some things to like here. And if you are going to get 5-1, I said it and out of the gate, I wouldn't be surprised if the favorite in this race is 9-2, 4-1, somewhere in that range. Something awesome for me would be an A. And then the horse that I picked in this race, admittedly a bit of a longer price, a bit of a stab in here. The 14, Long May You Run, 20-1 on the morning line. I have a difficult time when I pick a horse like this, and I admit that they are not the likeliest of winners. Admittedly, in any of these pick sequences, I just default to using them as an A, and I'm going to use this horse as an A, when realistically he should probably be a B or a C. Use that accordingly. Think about that. But I look at it and go, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night if the horse that I picked on top I didn't use as an A, and for some reason one of the other races and legs didn't break out the way that I needed it to, and I missed out on a giant score because this horse is going to pay $40. I just like that most recent run. I know it was against an inferior company. The figs, both of them may be a little bit on the high side, the Beyer and the Timeform US rating. I think he may be a few notches below that, but he is big speed, and I think at the end of the day, you just got to use that to your advantage and hope that it doesn't actually end up turning into the barbecue that perhaps Timeform US considers it to be. Let's move on to the 9th race, the 3rd leg of this pick 4 sequence. It's the Barbara Fritchie. I think this is a fun race. I think there's talent in here. I'd be probably a safer play is to go with 2 A's. The 1, Spice Perfection, in my opinion, and the 2, Late Night Powwow. But because I was so taken by Late Night Powwow's performance in the most recent run, and admittedly, as good as Spice Perfection has been, first time going out for a new barn, she's shipping across country. The La Brea as a whole, a little bit suspect. I'm going to use the 2 as an A and the 1 as a B, and that's going to be it. Late Night Powwow, I made her my best bet of the weekend on out of the gate, simply from a value standpoint. If you get the 7-2 or 4-1, somewhere in there, I think she is value. She was tremendous. I know it was a 4-horse field, but I think she is the goods. And Spice Perfection, look, she's just really been much better than I ever anticipated she would be. I thought she'd be a nice Calbred, and she just continued to take steps and steps and steps. The Betty Grable was the race to me, 2-back, that really signified maybe we got something more than just a nice Calbred here. She went out there, waxed that field, and then she comes back and wins the La Brea. And she never looked like a loser that day. She is a very likely win contender in here. Again, a safer play is to use both of them as A's. If I really want to try to hammer this thing and emphasize the A's or anything like that, I'd use the 2 as an A and the 1 as a B. If you're alive and you get to the payoff leg, the finale at Laurel on Saturday, it's not winners of 1 other than 7/8 of a mile. So you wrap up with 3 consecutive 7-furlong races. 4 horses that I'd be considering. One of them most people are going to be using, and I'd probably say as a lone A or maybe even a single if they're playing caveman tickets. It's the 4 Velocita Brillante. You get the number 4 horse. Claudio Gonzalez claimed this one 2 back. First start out for his barn, comes out, gets the job done by more than 3 lengths. Highest last out buyer, highest last out raw time form rating. From a numbers standpoint, this horse makes all the sense in the world. There's a reason that she's 9-5 on the morning line. I can understand anyone that singles her or uses her as a lone A, but if you are looking for some alternatives, the 6 Mary's Jewel. I think just simply because Mary's Jewel is unexposed. You don't know what she can be. There are a number of horses in here that don't like to win races. They like to run second and third. Mary's Jewel, it's too early to tell, but she broke her maiden most recently impressively. 68 buyer fits. Time form US rating a little bit lighter, but that doesn't mean that she can't take a step forward here. The other thing that you need to consider, who knows what the weather's going to end up being Saturday at Laurel. The 2 lifetime starts for her have both come on wet tracks, so we'll find out if you do get a fast main strip. Perhaps that's better for her, or perhaps it's worse for her. We won't know until she actually encounters it. The 8 horse I just thought was a little bit interesting. That's Toma. Toma goes out most recent start at a 1-turn mile, 67 buyer, 92 raw time form rating. The winner that day came back and won next out. This horse handled Janelle Dreams, who was also in this race, but was well clear for that position there, second and third. To me, that slight turn back is always valuable. Going from a mile to 7/8 of a mile, you're going to have the bottom. There was a slow pace that day. She didn't have much to run into. Perhaps that race is actually a little bit better than it looks at face value. And 10-1, I think that's one you definitely want to consider. And then the number 9, Reign Supreme, goes out for Jonathan Maldonado. You take a look at the most recent run. Again, time form had the race a little bit slower than Beyer did, but at the end of the day, this horse is in sharp form. 3 consecutive victories ever since being claimed. I think this is just an interesting spot. The outside post is no bargain, but at the end of the day, again, 5-1. Maybe this is a horse you use as a B in a race like this, especially if you really just genuinely believe the 4 horse is the horse to beat. So it's a really fun sequence. Again, depending on how you look at it and how you approach the sequence, you can really, if you have a strong opinion, you can spread in the other legs and take advantage of it. Again, Ticketmaker is the way to play. DRF Ticketmaker, you head over there, you put in your tickets with your A's, your B's, your C's, you click the Bet Now button, it goes right into DRF Bets, and you're good to go. The late pick 4 sequence at Laurel on Saturday afternoon, 3 stakes races, 2 of them of the graded variety. Scheduled post time for leg A, race number 7, the John B. Campbell Stakes, 3:30 Eastern. Good luck.